There is not a brand, a product, or even a big idea that did not start without ambition. The ambition to make something new, the ambition to change the status quo, the ambition to do something better than anyone else before you has ever done. Without ambition, it is nearly impossible to endure the bumpy, windy, long, and sometimes downright punishing road to success. 13 years ago, I started a blog called Gotham Gal. And 10 years ago, I started angel investing. It was the beginnings of the next generation of the web that we all refer to as Web 2.0. I had been involved in the first generation of the web, so I have had a front seat to the startup world from the very beginnings. But in this next iteration, I began to notice the changing tide of women-founded businesses. And this was in part because of my blog. As I began to recount my personal daily experiences as a woman in business, other women began reaching out to me, and many of them were founders. They were smart, tenacious, and they were building businesses that not only filled voids in their lives, but were also potential game-changing brands for otherwise untapped markets. Through these connections, I discovered a new ambition for myself: the need to fund and champion extraordinary female entrepreneurs, to change the face of business here and across the globe. People ask me all the time if I think women entrepreneurs are different than their male counterparts. And the answer is, yeah. On average, women start their businesses with 50% less money. Women are collaborative, they're happy to be led, they are more sensitive to their strengths and weaknesses, and absolutely value contribution. They're also willing to admit when they do not know the answer. Now, I'm not saying that all men do not have these traits, and I'm certainly making a generalization, but much of what I'm saying is consistent with others who talk about women versus men. I also find that women are in it for the long haul. They will keep their heads down until they reach their goal, and they are great at managing a team, and they will continue onward until they figure out what will make them a success. But none of this is done without raw ambition. Yet for women, harnessing and cultivating that ambition is a constant balancing act. You must be ambitious, but not so ambitious that you appear unattractive. You can be the boss, but careful not to be labeled a bitch. You can fight for your product, your brand, your idea, but make sure you are not too aggressive or too tough. So regardless of where they are in their journey building their businesses, be it day one or a Series A, most women at some point will bridle their ambition for the fear of crossing that invisible line. And for all the movement, the forward movement women have made in society, there still exists this coded language used when speaking of the successful, ambitious woman. It is this baggage that unfairly weighs down females in business. It is a different strain of the same systematic societal limitations that have been placed on women for hundreds of years. So I ask, what would be possible if we were able, once and for all, to let all this go and encourage unbridled ambition in women and girls? To answer this question fully, I believe we must recognize where we came from and how we got here. We must move forward. To move forward, we must go back. The first woman inventor that we know about is Sibylla Masters, who is the inventor of the corn mill. Her invention made it easier for corn to be processed into food and materials. This patent was issued to her husband because at that time it was illegal for a woman to receive a patent. Josephine Cochrane was the first woman who built the dishwasher. She was a wealthy woman who entertained frequently, and she got her patent in 1866 after proclaiming, "If nobody else is going to invent a dishwasher, I will do it myself." It did not take off originally for consumers. Although it was shown at the World Fair, it was really embraced by hotels and large restaurants, and it was not until the 1950s that she found a manufacturer to produce these items, and eventually it took off. Today, that company is called KitchenAid. Marion Donovan spent most of her childhood in the manufacturing plant her father and her uncle, both inventors, operated. And as a housewife and a mother of two, she was frustrated by the repetitive, dirty process of changing soiled diapers, sheets, and all the rest. She just wanted to keep her kid dry. So she took her inventive know-how, took a piece of shower curtain, sat down at her sewing machine, and invented the first disposable diaper. There were a few other designs on the market at that point, but hers did not create diaper rash or pinch the kid's skin. She took her product to every large manufacturer and was rejected at every single one. It took her a full decade before somebody finally believed in her and drew upon her vision and built what we know of today as Pampers. And my guess is that it was a bunch of men at those initial manufacturers who deemed the disposable diaper is unneeded. Virginia Apgar was an obstetrical anesthesiologist. She made the Apgar test, the standard in assessing a baby from the second it comes out of the womb. She has over 60 patents and was an early proponent for the importance of early detection of childhood illnesses. Now, Virginia was never one for the women's movement. In her opinion, women were liberated from the moment they left the womb. Patsy Sherman was a chemist who discovered Scotchgard, and she also discovered a stain and water repellent for 3M. In 1947, she took an aptitude test that indicated she would be perfect for the job of a housewife. She demanded to take the boys' aptitude test, and that showed her likely to excel in science and chemistry, where she spent her entire career. And I ask, who came up with these tests? I can only imagine. You may notice that all these women are inventors. Owning and starting companies was not something most women even considered possible prior to the World Wars. Women basically owned either bars, brothels, or restaurants, if anything. Perhaps many did start several businesses, but it was always their husband's name on the door. The war changed that. With the traditional providers off fighting for their country, a door opened for women to harness ambition the world had told them should only be applied to their husbands, children, and happy homes. Margaret Rudkin was married in 1923 and had 3 sons when her husband bought an estate called Pepperidge Farm. They were fairly well off, but then the Great Depression took its toll, and so Margaret made money selling apples and turkeys. Her son had asthma and could not eat the town's baker's bread, so she made a specific whole wheat for him, and that was the first of her products. A local doctor started buying the bread for his patients, and her husband went on the road to sell it locally. Soon he was distributing breads across the county, and by 1948, they were producing 50,000 loaves a week, no longer in her kitchen, but in a baking plant. And Margaret began to grow into other products, eventually building a large enough company to sell to Campbell's Soup. And she continued to oversee it until she retired. At 24, Lillian Vernon took $2,000 of her wedding money and placed an ad in 17 magazines selling personalized bags and belts. The response was overwhelming and a brand was born. Her business was built around her kitchen table. And the company grew, focusing on products for young women, and that eventually got the eyes and ears of major cosmetic companies who partnered with her for distribution. In 1987, when Lillian Vernon went public, it would be the first woman-founded, publicly traded company. That was only 30 years ago. Mary Kay Ash was married at 17 years old. When her husband went to the war, She made money by selling books door to door to provide for her 3 young sons. When her husband returned in 1945, they divorced, and she got a job working for Stanley Home Products. She was passed over for a promotion by the man she herself had trained, so she quit with the intention of writing a book to help other women in business, and that book turned into a business plan. Her original funding was going to come from her new husband, who dropped dead of a heart attack before she began, and her oldest son gave her $5,000 to begin Mary Kay Cosmetics. Her concept was designed to help women advance by helping others succeed. It was working at her father's hardware store that taught Estee Lauder her first lessons in business. She saw what it took to be a successful entrepreneur, and she then agreed to help her uncle, a chemist, with his business. Soon, she was much more interested in the business than he was, and it was there she began creating her skincare products for herself. When asked by her hairdresser how her skin looked so beautiful, she knew she was onto something, and she began to produce the line and sell it to others. She knew that one product led to others, and that is how you build and grow a business. In 1953, she launched her first perfume, Youth Dew, and by 1984, Youth Dew was doing $150 million a year. It is still on the shelves today. She never worked a day without selling, and she said, "If I believe in selling, I sell something, I sell it hard." These women were all trailblazers. It is because of these women, it is because of them, women begun to see a place for themselves and their ideas in the world of business. And the more women that joined these ranks, the more they became visible, and the more it became possible for the succeeding generation of women to believe that there was a place at the table for them too. The contagious and courageous ambition of the few multiplied incrementally and finds us at the moment we are today. Now women can theoretically have it all. They can focus on their education and their careers in any field without some test telling them that they're destined to excel at homemaking, like Patsy Sherman in 1947. They can build their own businesses and have a family too. Technology has allowed all of us to be connected all the time. Our personal lives have really begun to blur with our careers, and I believe that is a very good thing for women. However, now more than ever, we must insist on unbridled ambition. Today, women are outpacing men in attaining college degrees. 4 in 10 new entrepreneurs are women, and 44% of women who are starting businesses are women of color. The growth in female billionaires is outpacing the growth of male billionaires. Ambition has not waned, it has only been growing. In fact, we are finally celebrating and rewarding ambition in our women, just not necessarily with funds. Because when the investors sitting on the other side of the pitch deck are overwhelmingly male, ambition just isn't enough. It is hard when the person on the other side of the table doesn't understand that disposable diapers has the potential to be a multi-billion-dollar business. In 2016, less than 10% of venture capital money went to female-led businesses. That figure is staggering, considering that the data shows that women have a 35% higher rate of return than their male counterparts at 12%. I believe we are at a tipping point. It is a moment where women are on the threshold. Women's businesses are becoming an unstoppable force that will change how we live. When more women get funded, more women have financial exits, more women's companies go public and build products and companies that become household names, things will change. When the bottom line speaks for itself, there will no longer be a different set of rules for female-run businesses. There will only exist the rules for success for everyone. History is inescapable. It propels us forward. We can all point to these women who were entrepreneurial pioneers as the ambitious few that were able to rise to the top in a time where few women were able to. Linking the past to the present encourages others to embark on new opportunities, to build on others' successes, to feel empowered to lead because of the others who came before us. There is always a first, but that first opens the gates for others. A lot of ambitious women have created companies, products, teams, and more since the corn mill. So to all the women out there in the trenches, if you grow your business with the hope of going public, having a big exit, starting several companies, or just building something that makes a difference, it is important for all of you to stay in the public eye while doing that. That means speaking at conferences, writing articles, staying in the media, and mentoring the next generation of ambitious women. There are many successful women who have chosen to cash out and stay out of the public eye. If I named their names today, nobody would know them. That must change. In order for our companies to have gender balance, to have equality in the workforce, for investors to not question a female leader, we need to be visible so that the next generation of women can point to any of us and say, I want to be that person. I can do it because she did. Thank you.